On June 3, 2026, Strategy, the company formerly called MicroStrategy, sold 32 Bitcoin, 32, for about $2.5 million. To a company sitting on tens of billions, that is a rounding error. That is couch cushion money. But this was the company whose entire identity was two words: never sell. And when the never sell guy sold, the market did not yawn, it convulsed. Bitcoin dropped around 3%, and roughly $160 billion in total crypto value vanished inside a week. Over a $2.5 million trade. Sit with that ratio. How does a $2.5 million sale erase $160 billion in value? It does not, mathematically, it cannot. The coins did not change, the network did not change. Nothing about the actual technology moved. What moved was the story, because the whole valuation was never resting on a balance sheet. It was resting on a promise: never sell. And the second the man who made that promise broke it for $2.5 million, everyone holding the story instead of the asset got a very expensive reminder of what they were actually holding. Let me show you the machine under the hood, because it is wilder than the headline. Strategy holds 843,706 Bitcoin, worth over $60 billion. Sounds unstoppable. But it also still carries about $6.7 billion in debt, even after buying back $1.5 billion of its 0% convertible notes. So picture it. A mountain of Bitcoin, financed by a mountain of debt, held up by a promise never to sell the Bitcoin that the debt is leaning on. That is not an investment strategy. That is a magic trick that only works while everyone keeps clapping. And then the CEO said the quiet part. Fongla signaled the company may sell Bitcoin to fund its dividend obligations after posting a net loss in the first quarter. Read that again slowly. The never sell company may have to sell the thing it swore it would never sell, just to pay the people it owes. The promise was not a strategy. It was a marketing slogan with an expiration date, and the expiration date arrives the moment the bills come due. Even Fortune, not exactly a doom blog, warned that the way this thing is built, with its preferred stock structure, risks something they called a death spiral if Bitcoin keeps falling. A death spiral. Here is how that works. The stock leans on the Bitcoin leans on the price. If the price drops, the structure forces more pressure, which can force more selling, which drops the price further. It is a machine designed to go up. The problem with machines designed to only go up is what they do on the way down. Now, I am not here to dance on anybody's grave. Plenty of regular people believed in this thing, and a lot of them are going to get hurt by a structure they did not design and could not see. That is the part that actually makes me angry. Because the lesson hiding in here is the same one I hammer every week. When your wealth depends on someone else keeping a promise, you do not own wealth. You own their reliability. And reliability, as 32 Bitcoin just proved, is the cheapest thing in the world to break. Real ownership does not need a slogan to hold it up. It does not need a charismatic guy on stage swearing he will never do the thing that the math says he will eventually have to do. The coin you hold yourself, in a wallet you control, with no debt stacked on top and no dividend clock ticking, cannot be unwound by a press release. It is boring, it does not trend, and it is the only version of this that does not depend on a stranger's promise surviving contact with a bad quarter. 32 Bitcoin, $2.5 million. 160 billion in value, gone in a week. That is not a story about Saylor. That is a story about how much of what people call investing is just trust in a person who is one bad quarter away from breaking it. The house of cards did not fall because the cards were weak. It fell because everyone agreed to pretend it was a building. Stop holding promises. Hold the thing. If this rattled something loose, that is the point. Ownership that does not depend on a stranger's promise, or a CEO slogan, or a good quarter, is the whole idea. That is the ownership stuff in practice. MXEL at mxe.com. Stay loud.